Welcome to the New Year's, and welcome to episode 2 of Standard Issue T's Behind the Scene podcast. For this one, we have an amazing, incredible human being that has joined us for today.
Thank you, brother.
I'm trying to think how there is probably no right way to introduce this gentleman. He is
human being's good enough.
He is an awesome human being, but he is his pedigree in so many different fields is very, very deep. Music, fashion, culture, culinary, arts. He is the one person, and when I have any particular question in regards to anything in regards to the DNA of Los Angeles, he's the first person that comes to mind. He's the first person that I will call.
Right.
And no matter how busy this guy's schedule is, he always picks up the phone.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks volumes to his character, who he is as a man, and it means a lot to me. So, and it means a lot that he's joined us on the Standard Issue podcast.
That, brother,
so,
Jimmy,
introducing Mr. One Chace Infinite.
What's up? What's good?
Would you like to provide government or keep it at Chace Infinite?
Man, I don't care. At this point, I'm damn near 50, so I don't mind. Aaron Chace Johnson is my full government name.
There you go.
I'm commonly known as Chace Infinite. Just, call me by one of my names. I'm good.
So the culture, Chace Infinite. Everybody knows Chace Infinite.
For sure.
I was lucky enough. I was working on this little sneaker company in Venice out of this little spot on Lincoln, and getting people to come to Venice at that point.
Yeah.
The way LA's set up, you stay in your pocket. So Venice is the furthest point of the beach.
Yeah.
So if you're anything west of or east of Bundy, usually people don't cross over.
True.
Chace made that trek over there.
Yeah.
I think we had met probably at Passport prior to that. Obviously, I know who he is. And but the first time he came over, and it was like I met somebody that I have known my whole life.
Yeah,
so
man. Yeah, likewise. Exceptionally good person. So, we share that in common. So I appreciate the warm introduction, but it's like-minded individuals, man. Treat people as they treat you.
Thank you. I think I remember for the first time going into Passport, I walk in, and I think the first thing that came to mind was like, this is a familiar aroma in here. There's a familiar sense in here.
You're sure you from Philly, so
and then
you get it, yeah.
And then I'm seeing that the products and the fabrics, and I'm like, there were a lot of things that brought me back home, and a lot of people won't realize there are so many commonalities, like you said, between Philadelphia and Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
I tripped Saturday. I was scrolling through your story, and you were with Mark Byers.
Of course.
And you guys were...
That's my big brother.
Something very personal to Mark spiritual-wise. I immediately think back to a Jack Frost bar. And this is how weird the algorithm on and the feed is.
Right.
The next day I open up and it's Jack Frost, and he's explaining that bar in regards to his son.
Oh, wow.
At where he took his shahada at.
Shahada, yeah.
And I was like, damn.
Yeah.
And I was going to call you for that, but at that point I'd already called you a million times about coming over here to do this podcast.
It's all good.
This is the last thing that you want me to
I don't mind.
Keep talking your ear off about. So.
Islam is one of the things I can talk about as often as you want to talk about it. Two things, Islam and hip hop. Obviously my parents, but Islam and hip hop saved my life. So I don't have a problem talking about my perspective or when it comes to those two things ever. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, and Mark, who we're talking about, is somebody who was, I met Mark maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. I hadn't known him a really long time, but it's kind of like, you and I, you meet people and just automatically feel some sort of kindred spirit connection to them. So Mark, in a lot of ways, has become somebody who's always supported me and helped me in endeavors and stuff like that on a personal level, and then, certainly in business. So, yeah, we've become family, and even more so now. So,
the gentleman, this segues into a lot of things, and this is kind of where I was hoping the conversation would go, because, so Chace has an amazing coffee shop called Haroon, Mm-hmm. It's in Lamert Park, community in which Chace does a lot for, does a lot with, you know, from youth empowerment, business development, everything. It's uncanny what he does. It's actually so much work. You're like, where do you spend time on yourself at? Yeah. From the outside looking in.
Well, that's all for me too. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's not selfish in that respect, but you know, it's all self-development as well. Like, you know, who are you without your community or a community? I think that's what so many people kind of long for, you know, or when they feel, when you, as you get older, when you feel a sense of disconnection from things, it's because you don't have a community. Yeah. So I spend a lot of time trying to help my community or do things in the community, because at the same time, it helps to refine me as well, you know.
Damn, that makes me smile a lot.
Yeah, you got to be able to see yourself within other people.
That's it.
That's the beauty of the human experience. You know, when you cease to do that, I think that's when things kind of get a little bit dark. And we've, you know, from where you from, where I'm from, you know, real cities, you see that a lot. Yeah. People get disconnected and start to lose themselves, and it's like a plant or a flower or whatever. You know, if you're not, plants do well with other plants. Yeah. You know what I mean? Once you get disconnected from that, sort of start to wither. Yeah. So Chace
has done, like I said, anytime I've called Chace, whether it's personal or, you know, in support of something, always answered the phone. Chace, I have this thing. Jimmy, just come through. I got you. Yeah. First of which, we had a JSP project. Give me the sweatpants. I'm going to go take some pictures for you out on the street. We're going to go right up to the park. Right. Second project kind of goes back to what you were just saying. You know, for me personally, I always, you know, for having come up skating in Philadelphia, you know, I had amazing big brothers, big homies, people that put me in a position to be successful. And I never wanted those kids to not feel like they had the same love that I got. So I've always felt a personal obligation to ride out for those kids and any other kids, creatives and stuff coming up in Philly. On the flip side, you know, having a daughter born and raised here, I also, and this is where we've been for 15 years, I've always wanted to do what I can to give that same love and appreciation back. So I had hit Chace. I said, what can we do? You know, what can I do? What can we do to help with what you got going on? And that's where we did the raffle for the 101 sweatsuit.
Which was amazing. Oh. Which is incredible. I mean, I wish I could make more of those sweatsuits.
I know.
But that process was a little tough. Yeah. Binding that fabric. I do a lot of, speaking about Haroon, you know, Haroon actually started 2009, maybe 2010. And it started with these Africa medallions I was doing with Goodwood. I remade the old school African medallions and put a kente cloth. Actually, Frank the Butcher actually put the kente cloth, not the cloth, but the pattern, laser engraved it on the front, and I handed them out to a bunch of rappers and stuff like that to popularize the concept, and it ended up becoming like a bootleg item in the streets of New York, which is probably one of the things I'm most proud of. I created something that became a boot. You can go to Canal Street right now and get a bootleg version of that shit, which I think is amazing. And you know, it's then went from that to oils or fragrance oils. So when you said you walked in Passport, which was a store that I had with my good friend Mikhail Tesfaye, Mikhail was making shoes in Ethiopia. I had a brand. He is Ethiopian. He was making shoes in Ethiopia.
With sidebar, I almost 99% sure Mick did the state property logo. I feel like he told me that.
Maybe. I don't. You know what's crazy? I don't know.
Somebody told me that. Sure. I mean, he told me that.
That wouldn't surprise me, though.
We're going to run with it right now,
We're going to run with it right now.
Mick did the state property logo.
That wouldn't surprise me, because I know he worked with Dame and Dash around that time on
I still
Wash House.
Buy jackets and stuff, old state property jackets. Yeah. And Mick, that's what it was. He'd be like, oh, I did that jacket.
Yeah. So he was working with Dame Dash and it was a brand called Wash House, I think, at the time. I might be wrong, but you got to have Mick on the show to correct this if I'm wrong. But I think it was Wash House. So he did the state property logo or did a lot of their first like cut and sew garments, particularly denim, because Mick is a denim genius. He's a genius for a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Particularly denim is one of his things. He was making shoes in Ethiopia, and I was making oils at the time, or fragrance oils. I was taking there's 8 original Indian, what they call attars or oils, that are made from natural things like flowers and woods and plants. And I was doing a mixture of these oils that was becoming pretty popular. I was selling them online on my website. Before I had a Haroon website, it was Chace Infinite. There's a website on Chace Infinite. And then I was selling them at Union. So I was selling half an ounce of these really rare fucking oils that I was mixing myself, and selling them for like $60-$80 for a half ounce, because they're really expensive to get. And so that fragrance that you smelled when you first came into Passport, and Mick became a fan of the stuff I was doing and saw me just creating this brand that was taking these, inspiration from the East, and I don't mean the East Coast, like the eastern part of the world, right? And he noticed some similarities between my brand, the experience I was creating, and his brand, obviously him being from Ethiopia, making Ethiopian footwear. And we decided to do a store together called PHC, Passport Haroon Company, which was a combination of all of our influences and our brand. So I really didn't start making clothes until I did a store with Mick, until we did a store together. Because before I was just doing really objects, like, you know what I'm saying? Some furniture every now and then, like home, incense holders, the African medallions. And then I was doing these oils, and these oils kind of took off for me. Chris Gibbs let me, carry them in Union. He was buying them from me pretty often. I gained a little bit of an audience that helped me, springboard then into making clothes and stuff. So that the one oil that you smell was what I called Haroon number 7, which is a mixture of an essential oil and one of the 8 original, Indian attars.
Damn.
Yeah.
the shop is a special thing too, because like it's like so many LA things where there's these gems that they're right in front of you, but they're off the beaten path. It's like even the way that was a block off of Beverly, right next to Steve's potato chips. I used to go fuck a sandwich up there, and then go fuck with Steve, and then it'd be like, then go fuck with Mick, and then watch. And then I'd be like, did Dom Kennedy just walk in the door? And they're like, there's a studio upstairs. Yeah,
that's the thing. We rented the bottom portion of what was already True Studios. Nick Breeden, who's a guy who runs True Studios and already had built like a real community there of like underground, well-known artists from all around the world that would come there and record all the time.
So a lot of records had already been cut upstairs. Yeah.
And we had the opportunity to start the store down there, and Mick was like, man, we should do it together. I got all these shoes and stuff. You got what you do. And we just literally split the store in half. I was on the left side. He was on the right side. The right side was all of his stuff, and the left side was all of my stuff. And it just kind of evolved over the 4 years that we had it. We started in 2014. Damn. To 2014, 2018, I believe. Maybe 2013, but maybe 2014, 2018. And everybody just came there. We borrowed from Malik Sadebe, who we're both really fans of, who's a photographer. He used to do these photographs where he put the wax fabric, what they call African or Dutch wax fabric, which is the fabric that most people see when they go into African stores and stuff like that. Or we hang the fabric and have people take pictures in front of them. I
got a picture.
You got a picture? Yeah, for sure. You and almost, a lot of our friends.
That's what, I think being like so that I'm 40 years old, I'm still a fan of all of this stuff. Right. And watching, that, like, to me, that was an awesome thing to watch the Passport, the PHC Instagram, just to see who's there. You know what I'm saying?
Take that picture in front of that blue fabric.
And I mentioned this to Mick earlier, was that the same spirit that the feed for the page offered is the same spirit that you offer for the coffee shop. And if you come to LA, and even if you're just visiting, go grab a coffee, go see if you see Chace, go up the street, go to neighbor skate shop. Come to
Lemert in general.
Come to Lemert. And I see it on the feed, and that's it, kind of even going back to the thing when I so I had another shoot, and I said, Chace, can I got to meet Sev.
Right.
You know, can I use the store as a backdrop to shoot the stuff? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. So I'm sitting down and I'm like, you know, whether like maybe you have like Divine from the Wu-Tang Clan on there, and then I call Chace. How the fuck you know Divine from the Wu-Tang Clan? What's he doing? And you know what I'm saying?
Probably Power, not Divine.
I'm sorry, Power. I'm sorry, yeah.
Sure, yeah. I know Divine too, but Power for sure.
And he like, yo, Jimmy, whoop de whoop, this, you know, and I'm like, damn, that's amazing. But you know, even for Mark, you know, obviously Beans, Philly Most Wanted, those were like my idols growing up.
For sure.
And I always heard Mark Byers. Never, you know, it was like a prominent music figure I never had a face and a name to as a young buck. And I worked in the sneaker stores and stuff there, and I crossed paths with a lot of people, and I'm like, and he introduced himself, and I'm like, Mark Byers.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute.
I know your name from Beans.
Black Rock, Black you know, like, and I'm like sitting there reciting Beans lyrics to him, and he's like, who the fuck is this guy? Yeah. So that's but I think, again, it goes back to the connectivity from which the coffee shop.
Yeah, and the
whole block.
I'm a bit of I'm a nerd when it comes to context and history. So
same.
You know, before I met you, I obviously knew that you were part of skateboarding. Of course, I knew Stevie already.
Yeah.
I know Stevie's from Philadelphia. You know, when he moved to Los Angeles, we had a similar relationship. You know, I used to see Stevie all the time, and when Rich Marshall came out here and stuff like that. So there's a connectivity with, you know, at the time, like global youth movements and shit like that. So, and in Philadelphia, I've always been really infatuated with such a big Muslim community there, and the people in Philadelphia always have such a love for each other. I'm a boxing fan. You know, you guys are huge on boxing. A lot of things I've always been into. So I knew who Mark was from his work with Dre and Vidal and Beans and State Property. And, you know, he's kind of one of the people that, behind the scenes people that have been connecting dots for a lot of people in general. Yourself, I knew obviously because, you know, I've been following Stevie Williams as a black skateboarder, and then, you know, I was a huge fan of Pharrell and what he represented in terms of like the connectivity of music, fashion, culture, stuff like that. And so when he launched, you know, the ice cream team and all that stuff, you know, you were a prominent figure within all of that. And I did, I was probably one of the first marketing people for Diamond Supply Company.
Yeah.
And help, you know, when Diz Gabron, my good friend Diz Khalil, was working and partner with Nikki on the Diamond store, and, you know, I helped introduce him to Brock and all this stuff. So we always had like there's a connectivity. It's probably 2 degrees of separation, not 6 degrees for a lot of people that have been doing what we've been doing for so long. So even,
you know, when I first started coming to LA in the early 2000s. This is even pre-Fairfax, but it was interesting when I was seeing you know, kind of from afar, seeing things come together on Fairfax, seeing the brands get there, but then seeing people from different spaces, whether it's music, whether it's fashion, whether it's real Los Angeles people, you knew that there was, this is way deeper than just Fairfax. This culture and this, you know, all of this has been bubbling in the city way before this.
For a long time.
You know, and, you know, understanding the different pockets is where, you know, Mick was explaining to me, he said there used to be like an old social club that like a lot of like the guys from like Loud used to do back in the day.
Yeah. Loud was very an integral part of the development of that culture that you're talking about. What Steve Rifkin built with Loud was very, very important. I mean, just his office, you know, it was here. Yeah, it was on Melrose and Kings Road.
Get out of here.
Literally, it was on Melrose and Kings Road on the corner, on the 3rd floor, I believe. And you know, people used to go there all the time, smoke on the balcony, and you develop relationships and shit like that, just being at the Loud office. And because it was a center of like, quote unquote, real hip hop in LA, you see people that you never would see, you know, like Mobb Deeps, and, you know, I think his first artist was Han Solo. Mobb Deep. Han Solo might be from Philadelphia too.
Steve was a big connector for the East Coast to Los Angeles during that time period.
For sure. Huge connector. You know, his family is from the East Coast originally. He had Loud, which was headquartered here, and just the culture they built with Loud actually was you know, I think a lot of people were like B. Win. I met since, you know, when he was working with Loud in college at the time. You know, Mick, I didn't meet at Loud, but events in and around that, around Loud and what they provided, the culture and the kind of community that they built around Loud Records, of which my closest cousin and closest person to me ever, Bigger B, you know, he was the West Coast promotional director for Loud Records and did Unity and all these different, you know, clubs and shit out here. So
that's what it was, Unity.
Yeah,
that's what he said. Yeah.
So he did Unity, and Unity was like the central connecting point for so many people.
Gotcha.
Like we all kind of convened at. He was a West Coast director of promotions for Loud.
This is mid 90s, late 90s,
early 90s.
Early 90s. Okay,
like
so even
late 80s, early 90s. Like when at least Bigger started working for Loud, maybe around, I don't know, 90.
Gotcha.
I want to say 91. Bigger was my closest, like I said, my closest cousin ever. He played football at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. He was on the same team as Randall Cunningham,
Get out of here,
Icky
Dan.
Woods, and a guy named Marion Suge Knight. They was all on the same team. Bigger B.
Wait, so Suge played with
Bigger.
with Randall?
Yeah, Randall Cunningham and Icky Woods.
And that's known. That's a known.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
I think most people know that. I don't know. If not, they found it out now, for sure. But he was, you know, people know that Suge was a football player for sure. And then my cousin Bigger was a, you know, All-American lineman from San Diego. Bigger was 6'3", 350, 300 some pounds. You know, his father was Samoan, so he had huge fucking calves and mad agile and shit like that. Super strong brothers. His name is William Lanakila Operin. So Bigger B was actually his nickname because he was a huge reggae fan.
Get out of here.
And when he left from UNLV, that's my father's sister. My father's sister named Kathy. That's her son. So that's my actual real cousin. You know, a lot of people say they cousins and not really cousins.
Yeah. That's my cousin. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, ain't fucking cousins.
But that's my real cousin, like for my actual
Y'all don't look nothing
real
alike.
blood cousin from San Diego.
Yeah.
And he came to live with us. And I'm 10, 12 years younger than Bigger. So I always looked up to him.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I looked up to Bigger damn near my whole life.
What neighborhood were y'all living in at that point?
When he first came to live with us, we lived in the Valley.
All right.
Yeah, my parents had moved to, we had just really moved to the West Valley. We lived in the East Valley, maybe Panorama City area, and then we moved to the West Valley. But Bigger came to live with us right when he left from UNLV. And at the time, I was going to every club. I was already huge in the hip hop scene, rapping, dancing, doing all type of shit. So Bigger would literally accompany me or take me to these clubs all the time, and kind of got into the hip hop scene as a result of his own friend group, but then also seeing me go to all these youth clubs and shit like this, spend all this time. And then one of his roommates or good friends from college, Carmelita Sanchez, what people call Crumb. She used to be on the Wake Up Show and stuff like that. She's a legend out here. Shout out to Crumb if she ever hear this. But she helped Bigger get a job at Loud Records because he was big at the time. Bigger might have been doing fucking State Farm Insurance or something.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he's transitioned right.
Yeah, he was doing State Farm Insurance and working as a security guard. So he met his partner who he started Unity with at the Palace. They were both security guards that used to be called the Palace on Vine. Vine in Hollywood.
Shiz got a funny Palace story.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Shiz been out here for a minute.
Yeah, Shiz was like, man, he said he wore his Mike Schmidt jersey to the wrong party at the Palace.
Oh yeah, he was like, it might have been too many Crips.
Yeah, he was like,
the big P on his. He was like, where you from?
And then, but Shiz is so cool. Shout out to Shiz. Shiz is my mentor, barber, best friend.
Yeah, I'm a legendary Philadelphia barber in Los Angeles.
Shiz is so cool. He said he got rid of the jersey, put it in the car, and then he came back and he was looking at him. He said, man, I'm trying to get down with y'all. Y'all got it popping in here. And sure enough, he said they let him kick it all night.
I'm sure. So. Yeah, I'm sure. Everybody got I got a bunch of funny stories from the Palace, but that's where Bigger met Orlando and him started Unity. I'm trying to give you some context fast. They started Unity, and Unity was like, at the time, and Carmelita, helped him at the time. She did the door. She helped secure venues and stuff like that because she was already a radio personality and working at places. And the person that actually got Bigger his job at Loud Records was Carmelita Sanchez.
Gotcha.
Because they were really good friends. They were all roommates. I think Carmelita's boyfriend at the time was Bigger's really good friend. They all knew each other. And one thing led to another. Bigger was working at Loud Records. And once he started working at Loud, he just hit the ground running. He used to have this saying, he used to always be like, promotion never ceased. The promotion never ceased. The promotion never ceased. So he lived to like make flyers, take promotional shit, and pass them out to
people. That's a good term to live by still to this day.
Yeah, no, I say it all the time. Like, promotion never ceased, man. And he literally lived by that. So he created Unity in 1989, 90. And it went till 1999 when he actually passed away.
Damn.
And we all used to go there, but because he was the, and I tell people all the time, LA is a traditional car and gangbang culture. We don't get to see, at the time, we didn't get to see that many artists from the East Coast, like Organized Confusion, Mobb Deep, Wu-Tang. He literally introduced Wu-Tang to the West Coast because he was the West Coast promotional director.
They recorded the whole second album out here, right?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe so. I went to a couple of sessions with Biggie for sure.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. I think I met RZA and Power and Tyrese and all his brothers when I was 17, 18 years old. At the time they were recording the second album. I actually met him during the promotion of the first album, running around with Bigger.
And they always traveled out here cool. They were just...
Never had a problem.
That's sick.
They never had a problem with nobody.
That's sick.
I can say that wholeheartedly. I never seen him go through nothing.
That's cool.
Well, partly because...
They also seem like the type of individuals that travel...
They have connections to the West Coast as well.
They do.
Yeah. Tyrese, some brother they refer to as Supreme, and Power both, have connections, strong connections on the West Coast that, prevented them from having to go through any of the bullshit that other artists might go through. And they have little family. I know that Supreme has cousins that are from Los Angeles for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So obviously, so much of your roots and your background here, so familiar with Philadelphia.
Yeah. Love Philly.
We used to sit in Philly though, and especially when when I'm watching this thing, like what I see is streetwear kind of bubble. We have to take those bus rides, Chinatown bus, $10 round trip back and forth from the city, or maybe go to Port Authority. Yeah. And there are all these stores in the city, that had their, they were like urban legends. Whether it was, whatever, it was DQM or A-Life and
Supreme,
Nom de Guerre, all this stuff.
Union at the time.
There was one store that still to this day people speak of like it's an urban legend. I actually never got a chance to visit it, but so many people, old heads, young, people my age, when you say the name, it's like it was special. Yeah, and it goes by the name of Prohibit.
Yeah, for sure.
So, for people listening, could you kind of explain to me what?
Well, Prohibit was an incredible, in the evolution of what we consider to be quote unquote streetwear. It's kind of started around young people collectivizing according to their hobby, whether it be skateboarding or hip hop or shit like that.
And there's a backtrack. I think it's everybody's interpretation of streetwear is different, so I don't want to feel like I'm...
Well, that's what I'm trying to get some context, how that kind of changed. Yeah. Like people collectivize under the things that they have in common, whether it be hip hop, whether it be skateboard and whatever. And then we kind of... Really, streetwear to me is, prior to the skateboard industry really being what it is, they had something that they consider to be urban. Maurice Malone, Shabazz Brothers, and Nietzsche, all these urban brands. Fat Farm, and was that probably at the height of that. At the time when that particular genre of clothing kind of started to decline a little bit, there was the rise of what we used to consider the skate and surf or X Games market. Yeah. There used to be a convention called the ASR that happened in Long Beach and shit like that would concentrate on skate and surf brands. I remember seeing DC and Savior and all these brands, Drawers, all that shit before it was in DC, Drawers clothing before it became like really, really popular. But that was like the fallout of the urban market and the rise of the skate and surf market. Actually, that cross section is what actually made what streetwear is. That's why you have
and that's kind of like where I think for me, where I was growing up at, that was the point of intersection where, but I was a kid also. I remember I love Rockaware jeans. I love Nietzsche jeans. And then I come around like not snobby streetwear guys, and they'd be like, "What the fuck are those?"
Because those are probably more core skate surf guys that didn't necessarily wear baggy Rockaware jeans. He was wearing Jinko jeans or some shit probably at the time.
But I'm like, you ain't got these Python 90s on, no? So you can talk all the shit you want over there. You ain't got these. Right. And I got the Bo Jacksons that match.
Yeah, and I think I'm like I said, I'll be 49 in 2 months, so I'm a little bit older than you. Yeah. So I kind of remember when all those things were completely separate. I remember like I've been going to Magic, which is a clothing convention for, I did that shit for 16, 17 years. So I remember when the skate surf brands actually started coming to Magic and starting to sell their shit, when the market kind of, and that market was probably exemplified the most by
Cats used to do numbers at market, huh?
Oh, huge numbers.
Yeah.
And, Jonas, rest in peace, from LRG probably was the most successful streetwear brand at the time, because they kind of represented both, like the fallout of the urban shit and the skate shit. So Prohibit actually marks the rise of what we consider to be denim culture. Before people really knew how to tell a good pair of denim from a bad pair of denim.
Did you sell Rogan denim?
Oh, we did.
I used to love some Rogan denim.
They did for a minute, but I didn't start Prohibit.
All right.
So Prohibit was started by Maki Noguchi, who was a brilliant woman from Japan originally. She started Prohibit in Nolita originally in 2001. So from 2001 to 2004, you had a store that was in the not even Lower East Side, it was in Nolita, actually on Elizabeth. And then I got to know Maki because I was, like I said, I'd be going back and forth to the Magic all the time, which is a clothing convention. And I worked for various brands. At first, I started going because I worked in the music industry, and everybody that was doing, like, Echo would always have these huge marketplaces right across the street from where Magic was, and they always hire artists to come perform within their big ass environment, their big ass tent, shit like that. So we always looked at it in the music industry as Magic every year in August was a time for us to get some extra marketing, additional marketing, and connect with clothing brands for our artists. So that was always a good. So I started going to Magic all the time, and I started just meet a bunch of people, where they'd be salespeople, owners of brands, and go to the parties and meet people on the floor. I'd just be spending all day networking. I actually met Shin Nishigaki, who ended up becoming my partner later on. He worked for Prohibit. My good friend Damon Green, who's from Toronto originally and owned a store called Community 54. I've known Damon Green since the mid to late 90s. Damon is kind of an outlier in the Canadian streetwear market.
Gotcha.
He had a store called Lounge. Damon Green hooked me up with a guy named Steven Schneider, who owned the license for Levi's, Prohibit NYC, or Prohibit, and Red Monkey.
Gotcha.
Which is where I met Tony Magnetic and for the first time, because Tony Magnetic was one of the people who kind of helped design with Martin So, who actually started Red Monkey. So me just being young and enterprising and getting to know people, long story short, I became a salesperson for Prohibit and Red Monkey. So I was doing West Coast sales for Prohibit and Red Monkey. And, Damon hooked me up with the job originally. I got to know those guys really, really well. Shin was younger than me. Shin's a little closer to you in age, but Shin was only one of the Prohibit crew who spoke English consistently.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Everybody else was, they're Japanese, so they didn't really speak really good English. Shin, I started, and the backstory is I started going to Japan in 1994.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was asking you.
As a rapper, in a group when I was me and Khalil and the group Cell Scientific. I had started going to Japan and got introduced to Japan by DJ Yutaka, who was like the forefather of Japanese hip hop culture. Yeah, so he actually brought us over there for the first time. Him and my good friend Jason Joshua, who's a world-renowned engineer, were partners. I met Yutaka through Jason and my boy Don, and me and Yutaka became cool and ended up, I did music with him, but also he brought us to Japan for the first time in 94, had us performing for Yakuza Brothers in clubs and shit like that in 94.
That's probably ill too.
Yeah, incredible. Shout out to my brother Yutaka. So I had an affinity and a little bit of knowledge of Japan just in general on how they took anything that they were into and made it an industry. I always really, really appreciated that shit. So when I met Shin, I already was a fan of, Red Monkey and, Prohibit and shit like that. So it made it easy for me to make the transition from being somebody who just knew them to somebody that was helping the second. And because I was already working in the music industry, knew a lot of people who owned stores and shit like that, it just made sense for me to start doing the West Coast sales for Red Monkey and Prohibit. So Maki hired me to do that, I used to go to the, people probably remember me from being on the floor at fucking Magic and shit selling Prohibit. I literally was a person that was taking orders all day, be working 10, 12 hours a day sometimes.
Hustling,
doing real sales and going door to door selling Japanese denim. And that's when I started to become a little bit more knowledgeable in terms of the nuances and the context behind what makes a good pair of denim.
Yeah.
The dye process, first of all, they're all basically remakes in 1955, red tab, XX, left hand chain stitch, Levi's. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then you learn the history of why the Japanese got so infatuated with denim in general, James Dean, and how we sold the old looms to Japan once America became a little bit more obsessed with the industrial revolution and wanted to make more pairs per hour and shit like that. So fast forward, Maki Noguchi actually started Prohibit, and then in 2004 when she went back to Japan, she had a desire to start another store on the Lower East Side. I originally was supposed to only I did a 6-month contract with her to help her come start the new store because it moved from Nolita to the Lower East Side. And this was at the time when Evisu and paper denim cloth and True Religion probably just really started taking off. People started buying premium denim, what we consider to be premium. And Red Monkey, of course, had a huge moment. So I went from selling those jeans to actually kind of partnering with her after those 6 months, and things happened with her distribution and stuff. Me and Shin actually ended up partnering to continue Prohibit NYC. So Prohibit NYC was on 152 Allen Street, literally 2 doors down from my brother Jess Staple and his company.
Get out of here.
Reed Space, and his store Reed Space. So we were 152, they were 2 doors down. Around the corner was A-Life. In the middle of my tenure with Prohibit NYC, my partner, one of my best friends, hip hop, Kiambo Joshua, had bought into A-Life. And, so I had a connection with A-Life and Prohibit NYC. Reed Space was down the street. And then, so my history as a rapper and somebody that knew a lot of people kind of came to benefit me for the business that we were doing, Prohibit NYC. So Prohibit NYC actually became a hangout and just a central. It's the same way that Leimert Park, you got Neighbor Skate Shop, you got Napoli Naturals, you got Ike Bamboo, you got Sika, and then you got Haroon Coffees. All these things you kind of got to experience if you want to come to LA or at least to Leimert Park. And then Lower East Side, A-Life Rivington Club, Reed Space, Prohibit, all these things. But you just couldn't come to the Lower East Side because it wasn't really a tourist destination like that just yet. It was still the Lower East Side. So, you kind of had to come, Dave's Quality Meat, places like that, you had to come actually experience these stores if you considered yourself within the culture of streetwear and shit like that. So we became a destination.
And that's pre-media too, so pre-social media, it's all, that's print time. So
and we actually were in the store witnessing the rise of some of these media and the blog era when everybody would collectivize. I remember Scion was playing people. What was the name of that fucking blog everybody was a part of that Scion was paying everybody? So I started to, at the rise of the media and shit like that, we actually started to know a lot of people or become friends with people because of the blog era. You see people on blogs and people giving education about premium denim and or workwear and shit like that, and you actually start to meet people, and so that small community started to grow, and you started to see I remember the first time I saw Shut Off and Stefan from Pigalle. We used to carry the Pigalle shirts, but I hadn't really met those guys yet. I just seen what they were doing with Pano Chocolate with all the parties and shit they were doing in Paris. We see it on blogs oh, this shit looks fire, and we all became a community even before we actually met each other.
But kids, I think the unique thing is, I was kids were learning about those brands through the stores, probably firsthand, not through the lens of a blog or a platform. You know what I'm saying?
You had to go. You had to come, and go to the store, bro. And I kind of missed that. Having to actually show up and get to know people. That's the best part about it, and that's what coincidentally, that's what people, when you talk about Lemert and shit like that.
I'm getting chills right now. I swear to fucking God, yo. Because this is all, before you came and I was like, there's a lot of things that I want to say that I hope it all makes sense. And so I'm sitting here, and then we could probably end this on this. I know you got a busy day. It's 11:15.
It's all good.
So I'm sitting there. This is right before I introduced myself to Mark. There's a food truck right outside of the coffee shop, and like this feels really good saying this. You know, this is like the real hip hop honky me coming out. It's like, you remember when that mixtape came out, even before the album, the mixtape.
For what?
For anything, anyone, any artist.
Got you.
And if maybe that one specific, freestyle stood out, or if they picked that one beat that they wanted to go over. So this was the morning of Simba's Funk Flex freestyle came out. Okay. So in terms of context for people listening to the time,
Simba's incredible.
So I'm like, damn, I listened to it that morning. I was like, damn, I didn't really know too much about him. I'm listening. He got a really interesting Nipsey story on there. The bar gets into, his displeasure with something that Flex had said in regards to Pac.
He went crazy on him.
But it was in the most respectful manner on his free, so the gentleman working the truck, they got a little radio, and this is in between. They're serving platters. Yeah. In between them serving platters, the radio's on, and that Simba freestyle comes on. Right. And all the kids, L comes out, smoking, listening to it, and they run it back a couple times, and I was like, damn, yo, I missed what I just watched.
Connectivity that you
what I just watched was so ill. Yeah. And I missed that, and I was like, damn,
we get a lot of those moments in Lemert. That's the reason why.
And I hope kids still have that. I hope they still have places to go, skate shops, streetwear stores. I hope things aren't so tight where they can just go. Because even back in the day, like, man, like where sneaker stops I'm working at and stuff, I'm like, man, y'all need to take that weed outside. Now I'm thinking, as an old head, I'm like, man, I should just let them smoke the weed inside. Fuck it.
It's like, if you can, I mean, if I could let people smoke inside, I would. But I don't want to get in trouble with the city, obviously. But
just how, just all those things, like how important they were to us. So to see that there,
it's the most important thing. Like, it's so not about coffee. It's so not about oils or denim or clothes. Like, it's actually about those moments. Those are the things that create lifetime appreciation or fans. Not even fans, because fan is short for fanatic. But those connections, like that connectivity is the most important thing. And as technology takes over more, as capitalism becomes more and more strange, as America becomes a little more stranger and stranger, like, I feel like people that have the ability to create communities or add to communities, build things, have a responsibility to make sure there's always a physical aspect to it. Yeah. Because at some point it's inevitable. There's retail is gonna continue to devolve in a way that people don't necessarily have to engage. I don't have to come to the JSP store in order to appreciate your product or get it, but me not having a connection with somebody who's been involved in skateboarding culture at its most critical point, understands Philadelphia and how poor white people in Philadelphia, poor black people in Philadelphia, actually interact. And there's a huge lesson to be learned from somebody that has all those nuances programmed into them that you can't get in one conversation, that you can't get in one garment, that you can't get in one song, you can't get in. So you have to be able to access something physical continuously for you to actually have a connection to it. And like, I wouldn't have an appreciation for Philadelphia had I not known people like yourself, like a Mark Byers, to really understand the fabric of what that city means, especially to somebody like me who was a revert to Islam and loves hip hop and because some of the greatest freestyle MCs ever come from that city. Like, if you don't have somewhere to actually access physically to experience that connectivity, you never really fully get it. You can have a knowledge of something, you can read about shit all day, but unless, even for kids nowadays, unless you go to the barracks and can skate, what I'm saying, or go to what's the shot this shit that Stevie talks about all the time, Jaquan.
Oh, Jaquan, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Unless you have some places to go and do that, like you're never gonna understand what it means to like really be involved in skateboard culture.
Yeah.
Or you're never gonna understand, in a time when we got shit like George Floyd and shit happening in America, if you don't interact with people in if you never go to Leimert Park, you won't understand how people in Los Angeles actually do have a sense of culture. Because a knock on Los Angeles is always like, oh, there's no culture in Los Angeles, no culture.
Oh, man.
But you have to actually go to the places where culture exists. Every city has a story, every place has a story and the reason why they exist. So
that's what. Anytime
as long as I'm alive, I'm gonna always do something physical. You won't have to come see this shit. Like,
when you run into people and they're like, oh, these, I'm in LA. There's these guys out here, and it's like you're around the wrong fucking people.
You're just around the wrong people, and we're unique. LA is. I say this in so many interviews and conversations. LA is 324 square miles in Los Angeles proper. And then all the annex cities and shit like that's 508 square miles, bro. There's very few places like Los Angeles. So, like you said, there's these silos. You touched on that earlier in the conversation. Like, if we friends. I respect you. I know your family and all type of shit. But if I don't want to see you for 3 months, we ain't got to see you. If I don't actually make the end, but furthermore, if I don't make the effort to actually like, yo, what you doing? Let's get together. Where you gonna be at? I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
You won't see a motherfucker. I'm not gonna see you on the subway. I'm not gonna see you at.
That's why even today, you coming here has meant so much because, especially in the clothing space, I'm sure it's the same in the entertainment space, music. People don't, if they're not your business partner, they have no obligation to help you.
No.
There's no incentive.
No.
There's no, they get nothing. I
can email you, send you my address.
And I can't really get mad at people. I've learned this over the years. You can't get mad at people because there's nothing that like is made, there's no financial obligation. Yeah. There's no nothing.
No reason.
So when you do get help from people, especially nowadays, like it makes you value it 1,000% even more because they're doing it off the rip. They're doing it out the kindness and the goodness of their heart. So
particularly in this city, man, you gotta, me and you both gotta fight the traffic to get back home.
Man,
to deal with this shit and go pick up our daughters or whatever.
That's what I'm saying. Go back to the beginning. It's like you drove all the way to Venice. Just that little stretch on the 10. Yeah. If you want to take the 10. Could be 45. Depending on how much further you want to go past 3 o'clock.
Right.
Is how much.
That's your whole day.
Time. That's it. Yep. So, that's what I'm saying. Going back, we first started Standard Issue Tees. You just throw in the T-shirt on, and we have an amazing picture that Shannon took of you standing at the counter of the coffee shop with the T-shirt on. I'm like, this is, this is cross pollination of and communities and everything, but like. That means a lot, yo.
Oh, for sure. It means a lot to us. It means a lot to us, to me, for Haroon as well. And that's the thing more so than any other coffee shop, because now, there's several coffee shops or black coffee shops, whatever. But I think that's the thing that sets us apart. The fact that I have the ability to say, hey, Jimmy, let's do a 1-on-1 sweatsuit and raffle that shit off.
The gentleman's name, again, that won it, he bought. So the way that we did the sweatsuit, you couldn't just buy the sweatsuit. You had to buy raffle slots. They were $25.
This is my man too. You put me on the fucking spot right now. Fuck.
My man bought so many of those raffle slots.
Damn. Josh is the fucking man. That's my man.
And man, I think you had mentioned to me that even your relationship with him, and
I met Josh the guy who caught the Barry Bonds home run. I forget his name. Damn. My memory's fucked up.
That's all right.
So trip how you stop smoking weed, your memory gets fucking worse. So the dude who caught the Barry Bonds home run, he auctioned it off with Sotheby's for like $750,000. He used to buy weed from my boy Mike. My boy Mike Cole, who started Mikey Likes It Ice Cream.
Get out of
here. So Mikey is from Alphabet City, New York, whatever. He used to sell herb or whatever. I'm telling too much of his business. Sorry, Mikey, you don't do it no more. You good now. So he used to sell herb to the brother. And had an idea because Mikey's a huge sneaker collector. And he was like, man, let's start this sneaker store. These motherfuckers started a sneaker store in Tribeca at the time when there was no retail stores in Tribeca. So they started a retail store in Tribeca. I met Mikey through my ex-girlfriend, Jessica. They knew each other really well. They kind of grew up together. Jessica was like, I was trying to move to New York at the time. She was like, you should start doing the buying for Mikey. And it's because Mikey don't know shit about buying.
Yeah.
You know how to, you know, do buying. You already doing sales and shit. Why don't you work with Mikey and those guys? So Mikey got the guy who bought the Barry Bonds fucking baseball to pay me $3,000 or $3,500 a month to do buying for this. He was just blowing through money. Yeah. This is fucked up. I apologize to all of y'all, but damn it, I had to get to New York.
We edit this out.
Yeah. No, I ain't tripping. Right. You ain't got to edit nothing out. Right. Can't nobody beat me up. Fuck you. If you take it that serious, you know what I mean? Like that. So I was getting $3,000, $3,500 a month to be the buyer for this sneaker store that the guy who bought, I forget this motherfucker's name, but he was just blowing through his money, you know, doing drugs and buying. So I introduced Mikey to Andrew from 316. Like I just went to all the homies and was like, man, I need clothes for this fucking shop. At this point, I knew everybody in streetwear because I was already doing sales, and I just bought all this stuff, and then that's how I met Josh. Josh was actually in New York. Him and his girlfriend Connie, that's his girlfriend. They lived together, and he was a huge fan. And him and Mikey knew each other, and he would come to the shop all the time, and we just became friends from that time. So we just been friends consistently from that time all the way up until now.
Damn.
So he's always been a huge supporter of anything I've done, especially like Haroon. He's really into the clothes. So when we did the rap where he was the one that just went crazy.
Dude, it was sick. I mean, the sweatsuit was sick. The pants were sick, everything. Yeah. You know, there was a lot of time put into that one, sweatsuit, you know, and I'm glad that he got it. And I remember him saying like how important that was to him, and then saying just how much you meant to him and everything. So that was
We used to have long conversations.
And where do we put that money to? The cleanup of the Saturday events.
We did.
In Lamert.
We did. That was, I'm damn near forgot that. But that was
and that was
I appreciate you for even doing that.
And that was what I had called you about. What can we do? Let's do this sweatsuit. What are we going to put the money towards?
Yeah.
Jimmy, we're doing these things every Saturday.
Let's clean it up.
People leave.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck with the trash bags.
Yeah.
And then, I got to get back to my son and family. And,
exactly.
You know, so the money went to a cleanup for a Saturday.
So I appreciate you for always, extending a helping hand when it comes to shit like that.
That was sick. We got to do more of that.
Let's do it. Come on, you got a bunch of dope ass sweatsuits.
We gotta get Asla to open back up. They're only doing catering now.
I know, man.
I love that place.
I do too. I miss it. I miss it a lot. Asla is a Ethiopian eatery that started downtown, is now on Lamert. It's amazing.
My daughter, even when she was little, we just take her to the market downtown, and then when they moved back to the neighborhood, we drive over there, and she'd be like, "Yeah, I love this spongy shit, Dad, and I love these little beans and stuff." And I'd be like, I can't even pronounce that, Amelia, but she'd love it. She would crush whole big platters with me.
Yeah, man.
Shout out to Asla. But shit, well, it's 11:30. You got to get to the other side of town.
Yes, sir.
This was amazing. Thank you so much.
There's so much more we could talk about, but I appreciate you having me for this brief moment.
This is all people need, yo. You got to talk their ear off.
I appreciate you. I appreciate Jared, your partner, Brother Tyler. Thank you for setting up the mics and everything. JSP, Standard Issue. You guys are doing a great job, man, for
appreciate it.
People in general. And you make quality clothes, so congratulations on, because I think I remember when you actually started at least JSP and then relationship with Standard. So when you started bringing JSP back, so it's just good to see, man.
Yeah.
You know, you've created a real business out of this shit, and that's one of the hardest things to do. So congratulations to all of you guys for continuing some really dope shit, man.
I think we've been fortunate to do things that, like our project, I think everything that we do has come from a real place of personal, I hate to say the word authenticity, but it really is.
No,
things that are authentic to us.
It's real.
And then the people that have helped us along the way, like yourself, are people that, man, they could call me at 2-3 in the morning. Yeah. And I'll pick the phone up. What you need?
Yeah.
So it's like,
that's what it's about, though, man.
You can never
connectivity, real moments with people that actually have a moral compass. In the pursuit of money or capitalism, a lot of times we lose that. So, brands that have humanity at the core of it seem to do really well, even if it's a little tougher at first. Yeah.
It's just tough. This shit is a grind.
Yeah.
But it goes back to...
But you're doing it, man, by the grace of God. So
thank you, my brother.
Much love, success, and continue, you know what I'm saying? My man. Appreciate you. All right.
Thank you. Episode 2 is a wrap. Thank you again to Chace. And we'll see this. This will be up soon. Tyler, what do you think you can get up tonight?
Nah. Tyler's like, fuck out of here. Not after these Modelos, you know what I'm saying? All right.
Thank you so much, Chace. That was perfect, yo. That really was.
Yeah, super.